Hello everybody, need to keep my eye on the road, obviously safety first, safety second. I'm Mark Riley, that is Rob Hughes, that is Rob Riley, not to confuse the issue at all. Hello Rob.
He's cute.
And yeah, welcome to the very first in a series of Bowie haunts, which sees me and Rob quite possibly, going to various places that David Bowie is associated with, okay? And so where are we going today then, Bob?
Right, well, we're off to a place in Stretford on Greatstone Road, which is, well, it's a building site at the moment, but it is famous in Bowie lore because it was the site of the Hardrock venue in the early 70s. It lasted for what, about 3 years, we think, don't we? From 72 to 75.
Sounds about right. I went there in 1975. I actually went there to see the Egg de Broughton band, and it was the 18th of March 1975, so I would have been 14, and I was a pupil at St Greg's School over in Hardrock, and we had a teacher called Mr Sheridan, and I think he knew Egg de Broughton. But for whatever reason, he invited me and some of the other kids from the school to go to the gig with him, and we did, and it was the only time that I ever went there. I've got vague memories of it, which we'll go to in a short while. But what's the history of the building, Bob?
So we think it started off as a bowling alley, maybe about 1963-65. Weirdly, there was a letter put out recently by the council, wasn't there, that said after the bowling alley closed, it went into, well, it was just vacant until it was taken over by B&Q. Many years later, whereas we know that's not true at all, because there are people, even though there is scant visual evidence of the Hardrock, we know it was there, and some massive bands played there, and of course Bowie opened it in September 72.
He most certainly did, and the famous gigs that happened there, I mean, Bowie opening it was famous, and he did 2 more shows there as well, which we'll talk about later. But there was a Led Zeppelin show, which is it's gone down in folklore because it was so oversubscribed that they had to get speakers and put them in the car park so that everybody who was locked out could hear it. And I remember that Mark Radcliffe and I, we were involved in a program called Cult Radio for Radio 5. It would have been about 1993 maybe, so we hadn't been working together that long, and I did this thing called Cult Radio, and it was a Led Zeppelin special, this particular one, so we went to various places that were associated with Led Zeppelin. B&Q at that point in time was still open, and we went to it, and I do remember that we did a version of Stairway to Heaven in one of the aisles, took a guitar with me, and it was good, it was very good, and it ended up on Pick of the Week, and it in fact ended up on Pick of the Year on Radio 4, so I think that's the only time that I've ever come anywhere near close to that. But there was a lady on the checkout, and we were talking to her, and she asked us what we were doing there, because we were a bit conspicuous with the guitars and everything. And I told her that we were doing this Led Zeppelin thing, and it turns out that she'd seen David Bowie, don't know which particular one it was, but she used to go to gigs at the Hardrock. And I do remember the parting gesture for the piece for the radio was me asking her where the stage would have been, and she famously replied, "Over there by Nailbags." So she was a lucky find, and so she was working on the till. Now, as you mentioned, it's derelict. So, I mean, it's been derelict for a while. The shame of it is that they've just put, over the last, say, week or two, they've put fences all around it. Now, previously, if we had been a bit earlier in this escapade, we would have probably been able to get into the grounds, probably not into the building itself. But as it stands, it's all fenced off. And so there are people working there on occasion, I believe. And so what we will do is we'll go over there, and if there's anybody knocking about, we will see if they will be kind enough to let us in. If not, we'll just look through the fence, won't we?
We will, yeah. We're quite good at that, aren't we?
We are quite good at that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what else is a famous escapade from the Hardrock history was that, Cockney Rebel, the original lineup of Cockney Rebel played there. Oh God, that would have been 1972 as well, I think. But what happened was that after the gig at the Hardrock, all of the band went to see Steve Harley whilst he was staying in his hotel room at the Piccadilly Hotel, which we will also be visiting on Bowie Haunts. They all went up to his room and demanded that they be allowed to write songs for the next album. And Steve Harley said, because he told me in an interview, he said, "I've got one more album in me, so just let me get that out of my system and then we can all start writing songs." And they said no, all but the drummer left on that night. So that the band played their last ever gig at the Hardrock. But Steve Harley was so hacked off with this scenario that when they'd all gone, he sat down and wrote a song which turned out to be "Come Up and See Me, Make Me Smile," which ironically was a tune that made him more money than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
Fantastic.
well done, Steve Harley.
Absolutely. Oh, look, it's Bob.
Yeah, you what, mate?
It's Bob, look.
Hey, Bob, yeah.
So-
we're going the right way, Bob.
We are.
Yeah, I was talking to him.
We get more sense out the door. So, we are, aren't we? Right.
Yeah,
okay.
right. Well,
So
we're not far off now, are we,
We're not.
really?
So we know also it was a discotheque. It doubled, didn't it, as a discotheque called The Village. One of the DJs there was Andy Peebles before he was famous at Radio 1. So, and there's a tower which I believe is still there and I'm looking forward to seeing. So it was neon lit, so it'd be a different colour. If it was a concert night, it'd be one colour. If it was a disco night, just to let the punters know, it'd be another colour. It's a pretty good way of doing it. And I think when the concert was on there, the walls would go back, wouldn't they? And just allow the venue to become a lot more open and bigger.
The story I heard, because I had a chat with a mate of mine called Mark Ridley. Now, Mark Ridley, it isn't wrong that. His name is Mark Ridley, so his actual name is just one letter different to mine. Very clever, you probably spotted that already. But he went to see Bowie on the opening night. And he told me that he didn't remember the story that I'd heard, where there was a big partition running down the middle.
Right.
And it would be, you could have it at various capacities, which is a great idea. But I also got told that one half of the venue had seating and the other half didn't. Now, it wasn't the seating was at the back and standing at the front or vice versa. I'm led to believe that the seating was on, say, the left-hand side and the standing was on the right-hand side.
Bizarre, right. Okay.
So, I mean, if anybody went there who watches this, who will be able to put some kind of clarification into it all, please do get in touch with us through Cheap Things. But, yeah, it's all very intriguing.
It is. Well, I know that apparently, according to a few people who've been there, or we used to frequent there quite a lot, you'd walk in, there'd be a cafe on your left-hand side, and then on your right there'd be a very dark passageway, wouldn't there, that was had ultraviolet light. And so I think that would then lead into the kind of the auditorium itself,
Right.
if you want to call it. Sounds a really intriguing venue because with all these kind of moving parts going on.
Yeah, I tell you, somebody wrote a letter because they wanted to find some photographs of the Hardrock, because there aren't many photographs of them at all.
Not at all,
There's
no.
loads of photos online of flyers and tickets, particularly for Bowie, but I Can Tina Turner and lots of different bands playing there.
I've got one here, in fact, Mark.
Right.
So in the space of a week, in November '72, you've got Genesis, I Can Tina Turner, Roxy Music supported by New York Dolls, which I don't think happened, did it, because of the death of Billy Mercier, and then you've got ELP and Roy Wood's Wizard. So
Right.
it's just, it was everybody went there. That was the thing.
Yeah.
All right. So
Well.
it's before stadiums and all the rest of it, this was a venue that would be on everybody's map.
It was quite a big venue as well, actually. I mean, it held several thousand people, and of course, it was the first headlining gig in Manchester for Bowie post the hit Starman.
Yeah.
So he played the Free Trade Hall previously. I think he'd done it on his own to not many people there. He had done it definitely previously on a tour that was headlined by T-Rex and was compared by John Peel.
Yeah.
And he came back and did the Aladdin Sane tour in '73, and he played 2 shows in one night at the Free Trade Hall. We'll be going to the Free Trade Hall as well, which is now a hotel. But yeah, one guy wrote a letter, I think to the local paper about the Hardrock, asking for photographs because he just couldn't find any online, and I can't really. I can find a couple of B&Q as it stands now. But he did say that the ultraviolet light, he said it was really quite stark, and it showed up everything that was white, including dandruff.
Ah, nice.
So if you're going in there, as you might say at that particular point in time, on the pull, then you might have struggled if you had dandruff. But anyway, that's a different story. We're getting very, very close now, actually.
Down there, I can
So
almost see the tower.
yeah, we can almost see the tower. So what we'll do is we'll turn this round, and you can have a look at where we're driving, okay? Because we're good like that. Look, Bob, you'd think on that signpost there, it would
Yeah.
have the Hardrock this way, is it? It's not there, is it?
It's not there. It should be there.
They don't know what they're doing, these people.
There also should be a blue plaque somewhere, and that's not there either.
No, I'm getting mad now. Are you,
Oh,
Bob?
just don't get too mad when you're driving.
No.
Road rage, mate, is a scourge.
So we are getting very close now, and I can tell you that if you don't take a right onto Great Stone Road, which we're going to go and do in a moment, if you carry on, you will come to Lancashire County Cricket Club, which is where David Bowie also played as part of the Move Festival. And that was Mark Radcliffe and I were comparing that. So if we get time, we'll spin round the block and we'll go and have a look at the cricket ground as well. But for the time being, brace yourself, I'm going to take a left. Okay, so now here we are at the offices of the Lancastrian Office Centre. Now this is where David Bowie worked as a plumber for around about 6 years. I know he didn't, did he?
No, he's an electrician. No. He didn't work here at all, did he?
No. The reason we're here actually is because that auditorium there is a Lanky Cricket Ground, which we talked about before, which is where David Bowie performed at the Move Festival. So the stage would have been roundabout in the middle of the whole kit and caboodle, and I do remember it well because, as I say, we introduced David Bowie on the day. And it was a festival that ran for a few different years, but the organisers made a terrible blunder because they put me and Mark Radcliffe in a dressing room with a couple of 100 cans of lager.
Oh, it was daft.
And so we were very, very drunk, and I seem to remember that we introduced all the bands by saying, don't buy the Manchester Evening News, or only on a Friday, because it's 10 pence.
Yeah, it's cheap on a Friday.
It's cheap on a Friday. Yeah. So really, when you're introducing the greatest rock and roll star in the world, the man who changed your life, it's probably not the best material to use, really. But we weren't with it. But the Cheap Things banner on the website and the Patreon page is actually a shot taken from backstage at the Move Festival, out at the audience.
Yeah, I know. So did you hang out with Bowie that day?
He'd been on the programme.
Right, okay.
He'd been on the programme in the afternoon, so we had a great laugh with him. He was absolutely brilliant, as always, completely on fire. But we didn't see him. I mean, obviously, he'd had enough of us by 4 o'clock.
I don't blame him.
And it was my birthday, actually, fun enough. So, yeah, it was a great birthday present to introduce the greatest rock and roll star in the world ever, despite doing it badly. Anyway, let's move on.
Right.
Back to the subject in hand, which is not Lanky Cricket Ground or the Move Festival. It is, of course, the Hardrock.
Well, I think I can see the tower, which is
So here we go. We are now at the side of the Hardrock venue, and well, are the gates open? Oh, they're not open. There is nobody here.
No.
There's nobody home. So that's the tower that you're talking about, Bob.
Yeah, that's your tower. So that would be the little neon beam at the top.
So they have already started dismantling it because up until recently it had B&Q written all over it, including on that tower.
So it's an unprepossessing building, isn't it? It's nothing. It's nothing great about it from the outside.
No, I mean it looks like a warehouse, doesn't it? And I mean, like it was, as we know, it was a bowling alley, and so it wasn't designed to do anything other than to drag kids in and take the money off them. But yeah, when it turned into the Hardrock, like you say, they made an effort. They did lots of different things to it to make it seem a bit more funky and a bit more glamorous and all that kind of stuff. I don't remember. Would that have been the front door? Maybe that would have been the front door over there. That would make sense, I suppose.
Yeah. Here is the old staircase, just closed off.
Yeah. Oh, that doesn't work.
The guy doing the line.
There we go. So that would have been the way down to the glamorous halls of B&Q, and previously the Hardrock. And so I'm gonna jump up here so you can get a good view of the whole scenario. But yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting in.
No.
The Hardrock, ladies and gentlemen.
So I know there are hardly any pictures. I haven't seen any pictures of it, to be honest. So did it have Hardrock on the outside, do you think?
It did. It had the logo on it somewhere. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it was 1975 when I went, Bob, and I've got the memory of a sieve. So
the last people to play here were Tangerine Dream in October '75, and then by November it was gone. It was all closed down.
I could cry. I mean, I have been in here, like I say, I'm not only for show business and Radio 4, but also to buy some panel pins. But that's it now. I mean, the bottom line is we are kind of like designating this to history, and it won't be here before too long. So when people want to say, I wonder what the Hardrock looked like, then they will have to join Cheap Things, like you've done, because you're very clever. We love you, don't we, Bob?
We do really love you.
We do love you, don't we, Bob?
You do, don't you, Bob? Oh, he's so cute.